July 4th is the feast day in the Catholic Church of Blessed Pier Giorgio Frassati. Who was Pier Giorgio? He is a saint for the modern world, who is especially a witness for modern young people. Pier Giorgio was born in 1901 in Turin, Italy, and he died at a young age. He passed away at 24 years of age. He filled his short life with joy and holy living. Pier Giorgio was a model of virtue, a man of the beatitudes, as Pope John Paul II called him at his beatification ceremony in 1990. He was described by friends as an explosion of joy. As Pier Giorgio's sister, Luciana, says in her biography of her brother, he represented the finest in Christian youth, pure, happy, enthusiastic about everything that is good and beautiful. To our modern world, which is often burdened by cynicism and angst, Pier Giorgio's life offers a brilliant contrast, a life rich in meaning, purpose, and peace derived from faith in God. From the earliest age, and despite two unreligious parents who misunderstood and disapproved of his piety and intense interest in Catholicism, Pier Giorgio placed Christ first in all that he did. These parental misunderstandings, which were very painful to him, persisted until the day of his sudden death of polio. However, he bore this treatment patiently, silently, and with great love. Pier Giorgio prayed daily, offering, among other prayers, a daily rosary on his knees by his bedside. Often his agnostic father would find him asleep in this position. He gave his whole self, both in prayer and in action, in service to Christ, Luciana Frassati writes. After Pier Giorgio began to attend Jesuit school as a boy, he received a rare permission in those days to take communion daily. Sometimes he passed whole nights in Eucharistic adoration. For Pier Giorgio, Christ was the answer. Therefore, all of his action were oriented toward Christ and began first in contemplation of him. Pier Giorgio was handsome, vibrant, and natural. These attractive characteristics drew people to him. He had many good friends and he shared his faith with them with ease and openness. He engaged himself in many different apostolates. Pier Giorgio also loved sports. He was an avid outdoorsman and loved hiking, riding horses, skiing, and mountain climbing. He was never one to pass on playing a practical joke, either. He relished laughter and good humor. As Luciana points out, Catholic social teaching could never remain simply a theory with him. He set his faith concretely into action through spirited political activism during the fascist period in World War I Italy. He lived his faith, too, through discipline with his school work, which was a tremendous cross for him, as he was a poor student. Most notably, however, Pier Giorgio lived his faith through constant, humble, mostly hidden service to the poorest of Turin. Although Pier Giorgio grew up in a privileged environment, he never lorded over anyone the wealth and prestige of his family. Instead, he lived simply, and gave away food, money, or anything that anyone asked of him. It is suspected that he contracted from the very people to whom he was ministering in the slums, the polio that would kill him. Even as Pier Giorgio lay dying, his final week of rapid physical deterioration was an exercise in heroic virtue. His attention was turned outward toward the needs of others, and he never drew attention to his anguish, especially since his own grandmother was dying at the same time he was. Pier Giorgio's heart was surrendered completely to God's will for him. His last concern was for the poor. On the eve of his death, with a paralyzed hand, he scribbled a message to a friend, reminding the friend not to forget the injections for Converso, a poor man Pier Giorgio had been assisting. When news of Pier Giorgio's death on July 4, 1925 reached the neighborhood and city, the Frassati parents, who had no idea about the generous self-donation of their young son, were astonished by the sight of thousands of people crowded outside their mansion on the day of their son's funeral mass and burial. The poor, the lonely, and those who had been touched by Pier Giorgio's love and faithful example, had come to pay homage to this luminous model of Christian living. Pier Giorgio's mortal remains were found incorrupt in 1981 and were transferred from the family tomb in the cemetery of Palone to the Cathedral of Turin. He was a joyful, energetic young man who invites all of us to follow him in service of others and the holiness we were made for by God. Blessed Pier Giorgio Frassati, pray for us.